Offensive T-slur, take it away.
I want to explain a little further why I don't believe in non binary. The reason why I even talk about this
Great thing about science is it doesn't care what you believe in. All it matters is what the data says. So if you don't believe in non-binary, that's fine. They still exist.
is that you see non binary activists, they want to change the Western culture. They want to make non binary a part of our
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Less than 15 seconds in, we already get a they want to change our culture. Wow. They don't want to change the culture. They just want to be able to live their lives as they see fit. It's really that simple, my dude.
culture. And as a transsexual, I don't really approve. The whole point of being
Too bad.
transgender is that your biological sex makes you so uncomfortable that you transition to the opposite. You're not only transitioning to the opposite gender, you just want to fit in into society.
So that is what binary transgender people and transsexual people do, yes. But there are other trans people who are not interested in the binary at all, and especially not in reinforcing it, hence non binary. Okay, so first of all, what do I care what anyone in an Avril Lavigne hoodie has to say? I can't disagree with you there, Dodge. Yeah. Avril Lavigne hoodie, your opinion is invalid. Unless you're Japanese, because apparently Avril Lavigne enjoyed quite the Japanese career, as many American pop stars do for some reason.
And that's not a bad thing. Transgender people, they are discreet, they are just trying to live a normal life, but non binary
So, transgender people being discreet, this idea that trans people just want to be blend into the crowd. This is a direct result of the harassment and bullying they receive as a result of their transition. Do you not understand that? Whatever.
activists, they want to change that. Keep in mind, trans people and people who claim to be trans, they are a minority. Yet we take so much space when it comes to politics and the media. I don't get it. I've been trying to keep an open mind when it comes to the non binary ideology. Yet, I've been identifying as genderqueer at some point when I was younger.
The non binary ideology is just good old fashioned gender theory. All it means to be non binary is that you don't necessarily identify entirely with male or female. You identify as some sort of. It's a very broad spectrum from, just uh, don't worry about gendered identifications to people who, uh, want to take certain gendered indicators from one gender or the other, and they don't care about being consistent or whatever. It's a very broad spectrum, but it's essentially for anyone who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to fulfill the binary that people you don't want to appear to be all male or all female or all man or all woman. There's a number of people. What I love about this pushback against the non-binary agenda is that in many cases there are things that are already being pushed out of binaries. For instance, fingernail painting. I've seen a number of, mostly younger, but a number of people on streams and social media and what have men who identify as men with their nails painted. I think that's dope as fuck. I think that there's no reason why women should be the only ones who can have their nails look good or wear makeup. And as I think I've discussed on this show before, I know I've discussed it on Twitter and social media. There's a lot of awesome clothing styles that basically boil down to dresses, but more or less elaborate, that are completely shut off because they're not what you're supposed to wear, either for your gender or in the case of like robes and that kind of thing. You know, no one wears robes anymore. Robes are awesome. We should bring back robes, and not like smoking jackets and bathrobes. I mean, like fucking Merlin wear, that kind of shit.
So believe me, I'm not close minded. I have given the ideology a chance, but enough is enough. As a transsexual, I'm very triggered every single time these people are in the media and so on. I'm triggered when people are DMing me that they think I'm one of them because I'm not. I know I
So I am curious, what is this person's pronouns? Do they are they non? They're obviously not non-binary. Are they trans man or trans woman? I'm guessing from the voice. Okay. This video just came out like a. Thought it. Okay, so I guess this video is a little older than I thought. I just came across it. Let's find out who the offensive T slur is. Okay, so I'm guessing they're a trans man. That makes sense with the voice. Um, so yeah, like yes, I understand why some people think this person is an NB, a non-binary person, because physically they're presenting masculine, but their voice is very feminine, which, from what I understand, is one of the issues of having gone through puberty. Your voice doesn't really change all that much when you're on hormones. Although I thought I'd heard that trans man that testosterone will change your voice a bit, but maybe they're just maybe they've just recently started transitioning. So I don't know. I don't know anything about this person other than what we've already seen. But I can understand why some people might think they're non-binary. Um, Obviously, that's not the case, but I think it does go to show how valid non-binary can be.
look like an SJW. I got the glasses, I got the look. I know, but I'm not one of
What? What? Look, yeah, the thick frame glasses are a little bit SJWE, but unless they're trying to say that all SJWs are hipsters, which I mean, yes, a lot of hipsters tend to be SJWs, but there are also reactionary hipsters.
them. Here's some practical reasons why I don't believe in non binary. First of all, when you hear about non binary and the definition of being non binary, they say that if you challenge gender roles and gender expectations, if that's true, I think everyone is non binary. I think it's rare.
Yes, yes, thank you, my gender abolitionist comrade. Absolutely, yes. Everyone is non binary. They're just forced to accept binary roles by society. That's the whole fucking point. That we have arbitrarily decided that facial hair, uh, being aggressive and assertive, and not having tits are features of men, and that, or I guess I should say, having a penis is actually the better third one there. And that painted nails, long hair, and being passive and conciliatory is woman. That's what defines a woman. And sorry, my dude, but that those are just arbitrary assignments that can change. I mean, there have been plenty of societies where men were expected to have long hair, and even not, and the ancient Greeks, maybe it was the Romans, one of those classical civilizations, expected men to be the chaste ones because women were always wanting sex. They were the promiscuous ones, and it was up to men to control them. Not like the idea we have now, where women are uh, are the chaste ones who don't want sex, and men are the horn dogs always looking to get laid. You see how gender roles can change with society and be totally arbitrary? Yeah.
Rare that we see people who are perfectly masculine and perfectly feminine and have a mindset of someone who's living in the 50s. And if that statement were to be true, non-binary people, they're actually defining other people's identity. And that is bigoted.
I really hate this faux woke argument that a lot of these transphobes use, where they're like, well, I don't agree that those are. I thought we were in a more enlightened time where we didn't have gendered activities. We totally do. I agree we probably should have many fewer, but they're not going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. We're working on changing things, but a lot more has to be changed a lot more effectively for us to eliminate these gendered roles. So while I totally agree that we shouldn't have these gendered activities, gendered clothing, gendered roles in a society, uh, that's where we live. That's what we're in. And a lot of binary trans people, like I'm assuming you want to be, you are, uh, will not specifically not challenge the accepted gender roles for whatever gender they identify as. Non-binary people specifically do, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it has things like someone with a woman's name identifying as she her with a beard, or somehow worse with a penis, even though women have been growing facial hair since time immemorial, and it's only because it became a circus freak act because people are absolutely horrible that it it's looked down upon. There's a number of other reasons why women with facial hair is considered abnormal and weird, but it's definitely um, it's definitely not abnormal. It's not expected, but it's not unusual for women to be able to grow facial hair, particularly as they get older. And since man and woman are more or less arbitrarily decided, like the vast majority of the roles and expectations of people labeled men and women, there's no reason why women can't have facial hair. Why someone identifying as a woman can't have facial hair, let alone someone who identifies as they, them, and non binary.
The second thing, dysphoria. Non-binary people, they don't experience dysphoria.
This isn't true. Just look at Lumiru here on Twitch, and it doesn't matter. You don't need dysphoria to be trans. That's trans medicalist talk.
I don't care about the backlash I'm going to get on this one, but if you don't experience gender dysphoria, you're cis. Gender dysphoria is one of the worst things you can ever put a human through, in my opinion. And if you fake having that, I think you're suffering.
So I'm not going to say no one is faking gender dysphoria. There have definitely been people who have claimed to have gender dysphoria and didn't actually. That being said, yeah, look at the false rage there. Definitely. That being said, you don't need dysphoria to be trans, especially to be non binary, although there are non binary people with gender dysphoria. Again, check out Lumiru. She's a sweet uh, cloud of positivity and comfiness here on this house site.
From something else. Sorry, not sorry. I'm coming off a little harsh, but how do you think I feel?
Harsh for a transphobe, yeah, because you don't understand what you're talking about. That is the same rage face racists used to make when they got mad at mixed people. True, Magmil, yeah.
Whenever non-binary people, they are in the media, controlling the trans identity. Whenever someone claims to be trans when they're not, how do you think I feel? Another thing I want to talk about is pronouns. Whenever people use the wrong
They are trans. Just because you don't like them being trans doesn't mean they're not trans. You identify as a gender other than what you were assigned at birth, you are trans. Congratulations. Just because they haven't put in the work or don't want to put in the work because, again, they're non binary, doesn't mean they're less trans than you.
pronouns, when it comes to me, I get really dysphoric. I can't control it. I mean, it's an honest mistake, I understand. But my brain, I react emotionally before rationally, and I can't help it.
So, this is what I mean by trans medicalists like this causing harm to themselves when they themselves are trans. Because what they have done is they have muddied the waters. They have said that this group of people are trans because of reason X. And most of the time it's they have gender dysphoria, but I have seen some other criteria used. But that's the main one. They have gender dysphoria. When the vast majority of other sources, including academic and scientific sources, are saying no, anyone who identifies differently is trans, and as long as they authentically identify, then they're trans. That's all it is. By by muddying the waters like this, you make the average person confused, so they just want it all to go away. You're not, and I know this is something that Blair White uses a lot. That she has heard from multiple people, hundreds of people, dozens of people, what have you, that oh, thank you. I understand now that I was wrong to kick my daughter out, or I was wrong to kick my son out, or I was not being supportive enough, and and for those people, good. I'm glad that they are accepting of their children, but they haven't actually learned to be accepting of trans people. They've just heard an excuse why their child is sort of the exception that proves the rule. So when you put these gates between around being trans, it's gonna come back on you because the people who don't get it, who are just confused, because they hear from one reputable source this thing and from another ostensibly reputable source because they're trans another thing, they're just gonna fuck it. Trans people don't know what they want, and I just don't want to deal with. They're all sick, especially when you use something you refer to as a mental illness as your defense of being trans. That just gives them more ammunition to say that trans people are just sick. They just need therapy. And then more people get shoved into therapy, the wrong kind of therapy, and end up hating themselves. Fortunately, the UN recently ruled that you can't. Uh, the UN the UN recently confirmed that detransition therapy or therapy aimed at proving someone is actually not trans is the same as gay conversion therapy and is wrong. So there's that. I mean, it's kind of a non-binding resolution here, but it's a good thing nonetheless. Maybe I'm outing myself as lacking research here, but if you buy what this person is saying, wouldn't that mean there couldn't have been any trans people until modern medicine existed? Isn't that crazy? Am I missing something? No, as far as I know, you're not missing anything, Magno. Yeah, by this definition, until we discovered gender dysphoria existed, there was no legitimate trans people. So, yeah, love that end of history type argumentation.
Even though I don't blame you personally for making a mistake, my brain is not loving it. That's why when non-binary people they are upset about people using the wrong pronouns, they can actually control that feeling.
Keep in mind that this is all stemming from this person's belief that no non binary person experiences dysphoria, which is absolutely not true. There are absolutely non binary people who experience dysphoria. There's a lot of them. And again, even if they don't, no, they don't feel that pain from dysphoria, from being misgendered, but they still feel disrespected. They still feel invalidated. And it may trigger some other kind of trauma if that is why they're choosing to transition. I know anecdotally there's a number of non-binary people who transition as a result of trauma. Um, and I can imagine if you're wanting to escape a gender because of what was done to you because you were that gender, being referred to as that gender could be triggering, not in a gender dysphoria form, but simply in a trauma form, traumatic form.
Feeling. It's just like if people are calling me a bitch, too skinny, too ugly, whatever, I can actually control my reaction. Of course, it's rude and I'll be a.
But if you grew up being harassed for being too fat or too skinny, or if you had a parent figure or a partner, ex partner, who would harass you like that, and it caused trauma, then you wouldn't necessarily be able to control it, would you? So you see, your whole argument is fallacious on its surface and has even more holes. Jesus Christ.
Offended, but I can actually control that feeling. Sexuality. I have explained before that you can't really be gay or straight and being non binary because being gay or a lesbian, that requires you to be a man or a woman. So you can't be gay as a non binary person. And straight. You can imagine. So it doesn't really make sense to me to be non binary because how can a person not have asexuality? That's weird, right?
So this is actually something I'm not super up on, but how I would assume it works is that basically how I would assume, and if there's any non-binaries in the audience who know differently, you know, feel free to correct me. I would assume that essentially, if they could consider themselves straight, if they are attracted to genders opposite to the ones they were assigned at birth, and gay in whatever form that takes, if they're attracted to the same gender they were assigned at birth, or they just don't worry about it and they're pansexual and they're attracted to people, not genitalia. This is something that I've kind of been thinking about, and I think that the world would be a better place if we weren't socialized so strongly to identify uh, certain things as sexual and certain body parts as not. because we're so socialized, and anyone who denies this is literally denying reality. Kids are so socialized to be straight that they come to hate bodies similar to their own in a sexual way. And I think the world would be better, a happier place, if we didn't socialize people. That's not to say that there aren't naturally straight people, but I don't know. I'm not really explaining this properly because it sounds really. But this idea that the only romance can be found in a sexual relationship, or that only affirmation and uh, support and the kind of thing you get from a partner can only be found in a sexual relationship, is sort of built into our society, and it's just not necessarily the case. And I think it would be a lot better if we did separate romance from sex. Not to say that sex in a romantic relationship isn't good. It's pretty good. It's great, you know. But this way we've connected, we've intrinsically linked sex and romance, I think causes a lot of issues, a lot of harms.
If a non binary person is gay, the person is only attracted to other non binary people. Is that how?
No. This is where people get like super min maxy about sexual attraction. And I think it's just to, but by getting super de- digging deep down into, well, what does it mean to be gay? What does it mean to be straight? If you're non-binary, why does it matter to you? Again, I assume this is how I would do it if I were non-binary. I would say I was straight if I was attracted to the gender opposite the one I was assigned at birth. Gay if I'm attracted to the same gender I was assigned at birth, even though now I identify as non-binary. Or I would just say it's all gay because I'm attracted to a gender. It's all straight because I'm attracted to a gender different from mine. If I'm not attracted to non, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why do you have to drill so deeply into this? I mean, I know why. It's because you need to prove that non-binary doesn't make sense, and it only doesn't make sense because you don't want it to. Doesn't matter who people are attracted to. That's their own personal business.
How it works? Another thing I want to talk about is that people criticize me and say, well, what about?
It's always been crazy to me how far people go to argue about how other people view themselves. The idea the default position is no, you aren't, prove it. Anytime anyone makes a claim about their identity is straight insane. True, Magmill, I agree. Yeah. Like, you're telling me what I believe. Okay, then.
About gender therapists? They are aware of non binary. They think that non binary is real. Well, I just disagree with them. I think the PC culture is taking over our education system, and I think that future therapists, they are taught these kind of things so they seem more inclusive and diverse. Just because something is written down and it's in the system doesn't mean that you necessarily have to agree with it. According to the Danish system, you can be accused of racism if you're homophobic. It says in the paper that's how it works. But does it make sense and do I agree with it? No.
Okay, I gotta look into this. Because I'm betting that it's using a Danish word. If I had to guess, I would assume that it's using a Danish word that refers to homophobia, or refers to general bigotry, and that word is also used for racism or something to that effect. Um, uh, let's see if Wikipedia has anything about Denmark. Does not include explicit hate crime provisions. Instructs courts to take into account the gravity of the offense and the offender's motive when meting out penalty, and therefore to attach importance to the racist motive of crimes in determining sentence. Your sentence on the basis of racist motives. Okay. It sounds like they don't even have. It explicitly says they don't have explicit hate crime provisions, but they have allowances for the judges to increase sentencing if they feel the person is biased in their actions. That seems reasonable to me. What's your source here? Is there any sort? It's not even a description. This just shows how fucking easy the grift is. You can get 250 subscribers without even a description.
The last thing I want to talk about is that I know I seem mean, I come off as mean when I talk about the non-binary ideology, but I don't care. I'm tired that the PC culture is taking over right now, and I feel like
You're not mean, you're just deluded. You're misinformed. And while it makes me sad that someone hates themselves and their identity so much that they have to latch on to this kind of destructive ideology to accept it, is the problem. It's disconcerting, it's sad, it's disheartening, it's sad, and I truly feel sorry for you. I hope that someone gets through to you and helps you to realize that this path you're on is very self-destructive. If it doesn't lead to the millions of dollars that someone like Blair White makes, it's going to be a very lonely, sad path. With a lot of people telling you how awesome you are, how you're one of the good ones.
like as a trans person, I have a little bit of privilege.
Does this person think they're being like a rough rider here, like they're saying some new and harsh truth? Yeah, I think so.
To talk about this. I don't attack people who are not in the public, who are not outspoken. Whatever you do behind closed doors is your own business. But as soon as you come forward and you take a lot of room in the media and so on, I'm gonna say something. And I also want people who are identifying as non-binary to take a step back and be like, is this really who I am? Does this really make sense? I'm trans, but I don't owe the non-binary movement anything. I'm a free thinker, I'm independent, and I'm trying to gather people in the middle to get a mutual understanding. I would love some feedback, even though I know I'm going to get a lot of hate. I don't care. Come at me.
I'll happily come at you, Marcus. They have in their whatever their name is, Marcus Dib. Yeah, right here. So, I'll come at you. As I've already said, you're misinformed. You're wrong. I don't know if you just have an incomplete education, if no one has showed you the truth, or if you're deliberately misinformed. But what I will tell you is that you're hurting yourself and others like you. If you'd like to talk about it, we can arrange something. But, yeah. Non-binary people are real. They exist. Some of them even have dysphoria. I hope you can learn that one day. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like, share, and leave a comment because it helps me. Subscribe and ring that bell to help you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.